Okay. What?
Nothing.
I'm very comfortable.
Me too. Well, I'm always comfortable with you, so there's that.
Did you hit recording?
I did.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? Well,
Let's talk about sex,
welcome.
baby.
So silly. Well, we can talk about welcome to the Love and Grace podcast,
Yes.
where we have conversations about marriage,
Yes.
and
relationships.
relationships. It's exciting to be here.
Yes.
Okay, so today's topic is homeschooling.
Yes. We'll talk about homeschooling, the pros and cons, the ins and outs, the myths, the associated with it, the experience that we've had with it so far.
The challenges. The challenges of it, from the educational part as well as the social part of the challenges of homeschooling. But all in all, like the ins and out of it. Okay, so...
So you want to talk about the pros first?
Well, I want to talk about how we got into it. What's the idea of
Okay,
it?
we can do that.
I think, for us, having a kindergartner, having a child much older in life, we realized that,
With much older
siblings, much older siblings, we kind of realized that we wanted to do things a little bit differently. Like, we wanted the flexibility of movement that homeschooling gives us. And being tied to a regular school calendar wasn't going to afford us that flexibility. And then...
Right, but also the importance of making sure that we had control over the content he was being exposed to.
It's true.
Was a main factor, is a huge factor.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. And, and then I think the biggest part for me is kind of like tailoring his learning to his personality, his interests, and being able to figure out what he's struggling with and how I can, combat that. And then one of the things that we do very well is the fact that you teach him some subjects, so he gets a different learning style than me.
Yes.
And then the dynamics of a multicultural household.
And also he gets you just know some things better than I do, and I know some things better than you do. So I can express certain things to him that you're not able to get across to him, and you're also able to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think I also love the fact that he gets being taught by a mom and a dad, a male and a female, getting different perspectives in how, daddy teaches as a male and mommy teaches as a female. There's more of the mom being the nurturer, and he's thinking he can get away with stuff and more disruptions with me than he does with you. So I think that has been the growing pain, so to speak, of figuring this whole part out.
Yes.
on our own, and also loving the challenge of seeing how when he gets something, he lights up on the high fives and all that. So that's been exciting.
Yeah, well, on the pro side.
On the pro side, not to talk about the frustration of he's such a wiggly boy,
Yes.
moving around and just being fidgety. But, it's expected with a boy learning in the house, where I think one of the beautiful things for him was that he got to do the Mommy's Day. And by doing the Mommy's Day, he got to experience being around other kids. So there's that interaction. So what we strive to do is make sure that he's interacting with other people outside of the home, other kids, and playing. But then we can work on the learning part on our own. So I think that's been the biggest challenge to homeschooling, trying to find a group during the day or during the week that we can meet up and do fun stuff that might not be curriculum based. Because from my experience and our experience, it's been that parents every homeschooling parent that I've talked to have chosen different curriculum. And when we get into the conversation about curriculum, there is such a diverse spectrum of thought.
And there's also a different perspective on how things should be approached, what should be done, and everyone seems to generally have the idea of do what works for you, but at the same time they also have this like, well, you're doing it that way. Right?
Yeah. I think the best approach that I heard from a homeschooling mom and from a friend of mine was, take an eclectic approach your first year, figure out what works for you. And that took that pressure off. Like, man, you're trying to look at all these curriculums, and then you read all the reviews, and every mom and dad and teacher has an opinion about every curriculum that you see. And so it's like daunting. It's a little bit like it just creates this new world that you're very uncertain about. However, when we took the eclectic approach, it was more or less doing what works for our family.
Yeah.
I can tell you,
and
as
it works for him specifically.
yeah, exactly, because you know he likes the construction things and the fixing things, and so when we gear learning towards things that involve building and hands-on, he's more excited about learning that way as opposed to, you know, sit down and color, which he hates to color.
It's growing on him.
It's going, it's growing on him.
It's still a struggle, though.
But then that's where you and I also differ. I am more about the structure and being within the lines. And you are, you know, you can look outside the lines and the gray areas and still be able to come up with, you know, a better understanding of it. But I am more like, let's read line for line, you know, what does he say? Which can make learning a little rigid. And I think that's because of how I was taught out to, you know, to learn.
Maybe, but you don't do that as much.
I don't?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I mean, you still do because it's just in your nature to be a little bit rigid, but you.
I'm rigid, huh?
A little bit sometimes on certain things, but
I can admit.
But you have drastically shifted in a lot of that, and I think actually, homeschooling him is helped you let go a little bit.
It's true. It has. So. It has, and how, you know, allowed me to kind of like. Kind of not go with the flow, yeah. But that's kind of it. And I think that's one of his...
And also some of that rigidity is necessary sometimes. He needs that. You bring a sort of different kind of discipline than I do. I bring more of a stern discipline, while you bring more of a stay focused discipline.
Yes. And I think it's because I recognize myself in him a lot. And I see how easily distracted I was as a learner, an early learner. However, I also loved learning. So it wasn't abnormal for me to wake my mom up at like 2 a.m. to do math sums. And she always had a notebook beside her because I always did that repeatedly, like I wanted to do math sums. And I see that he has that aptitude for numbers, but he doesn't have the discipline like I did. But I was also a child that got distracted easily. So that's why I can't study with music or with any sound. It has to be completely quiet. Whereas you can do sound and, you know...
It depends on what the sound is. I don't like certain distractions, but yeah. I like to have music or something sometimes as background noise, which he also likes to have background noise.
It's true, he does.
He
talks and he sings while he's... Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know.
But I don't always like background noise. Sometimes I need quiet. Sometimes it just depends on the mood I'm in, really. But he seems to always need some kind of background noise.
But you remember when he was a baby, like when he started toddling, I was able to move around from one part of the house to the other. And we would put like Cocomelon or something like that, or Dave and Ava on. And the moment we changed it, he would come from the other side of the house all the way and like, you know, when he couldn't even talk, like, like trying to tell you, why did you change it? He still does that till today where he needs like that sound going on while he's focusing. And I find it quite interesting that he can study that way. But I think for me, what I have learned a lot from just the journey of homeschooling, which I've always believed, is that learning should be fun.
Most of the time, as long as you come with the right approach. Sometimes it's just going to be humdrum, you know, like there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes it's just going to suck.
Like you always say, what do you always tell him again about staying on task or something like that?
He needs to stay on task to do what he was supposed to do before he moves on to the next thing. But that's because of his personality. Yeah. Mainly. He's very easily distracted. So he needs to stay focused on what he's doing, his initial task, before he even moves on to another thing, because otherwise he'll just forget and not complete it. So
or even come back or say, oh, I forgot what I was, you know.
That's specifically because of his personality, at least for now, until hopefully he grows out of that. But right now, he needs to stay on task.
You know, one of the things I love about what he does with learning, though, is that when he does a good job, he'll say, mommy, aren't you proud of me that I got it? Or, so he's learning to celebrate those little wins, and he's also like me, where he's a little hard on himself when he stumbles. And so I'm trying to teach him with the learning that, there are mistakes that are going to happen. He doesn't like getting, like, if it's going to be 10 out of 10, he wants to get 10 out of 10. And I know that part of teaching him about learning is that you might not get 10 out of 10. And it's okay. Don't stay in that state of beating yourself up.
Right.
Like, what did I do wrong? How could I have done it better? And then move on from that, learn from that. And I think that for me is one of the things that I find as part of the structure of teaching him.
Right.
Have we gone off topic?
No.
Okay. But honestly, the rewards to homeschooling, though, it far outweighs what I ever would have thought. For instance, he goes to bed I wouldn't say late. 9 o'clock is his bedtime.
Yes.
And he wakes up around 9, And so, whereas a few friends of mine, I know their kids get up at 6. And I can't even imagine if he got up at 6 what I would do. Because of the fact that...
We would adjust.
We would.
But it's nice that how it currently works. It works with him. The only downside for now, at least, is that he's not going to be used to a rigid schedule. I mean, he is with his other things he does.
Yeah.
But he, at some point, will have to shift to where he's on a specific schedule. Just because that's how the world works.
Exactly.
And he's going to have to learn that. And just like the times we've had to talk to him where he doesn't understand how good he has it.
Yeah.
With school, because homeschooling is so drastically different in that you can cram in so much necessary information into short blocks.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day is open for other things. You can add learning here or there. He can play. He can go out. He can do stuff. He can be social. But in school, you're there doing,
you're in that
schoolwork.
You're there at that designated amount of time.
Yeah,
if it's 8 hours, it's 8 hours, and that's the block of time. Then you come home, you get to eat a snack or an early dinner or supper. Yeah. Do some homework, then dinner, and then he's back to the
right. But he still doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand that, and that's what he got to learn when we went to that playground.
I mean, kind of.
And he got to talk to those little boys, and they're like, "You're homeschooled. Oh my gosh, I would love to be homeschooled."
He still doesn't get it though. Just like today, when we had to have the conversation with him today about he was fussing that he wanted to play. I'm just like, but you're literally sitting down for an hour.
Yeah. And
doing your studies.
2 tops.
And if you were in school, you'd be sitting there all day. And studies have even shown that's not necessary. It's just basically following what's always been done because it's what's always been done, and it's a lot of kids just sit there and waste time all day long. And so he doesn't have that problem. I mean, he does have the social problem. He can be a little awkward still.
Yeah.
That's the only issue, is sometimes he can still be a little awkward, but he'll grow out of that the more we get him engaged in other social activities, which is one of the main myths that about homeschooling you see, is that what about the social? I don't know why that's still such a prevalent thing when it's kind of well known that you can take them to sports and you can take them to activities, and now more than ever there's a lot of homeschool. What are those collaboration things? Like, what are they?
Oh gosh. Not hybrid. I'm so silly. I'm thinking about HOA, but that's not it. What is it again?
But there's groups.
Yeah,
there's
like
groups.
Co-ops.
That's the word.
Co-ops.
Yeah, there's a lot of homeschool co-ops that you can group up with other people, and so those kids can interact with each other, and so that's more of a thing. I mean, it's not the same exact thing as going to school and being around other kids your age all day, every day, but it's still gives you the social skills and gives you social interaction with other kids.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's the only place. He's always been a social kid, but he's learning to interact with other kids. And once he gets past that awkward phase, when he meets a new kid, of course, he will say hi to every kid he meets. Hi.
Yeah, but that's not really his problem. His problem is he just likes to ask ridiculously awkward questions every time he gets around to anyone.
Give me an example.
He just did this the other day. He asked some kid, well, why do you do something? I don't remember what it was, but he's like, why do you, it was over at Joe's house. He said, why do you, do something? I forgot what he asked, but I had to like a.
Yeah, that's not appropriate, or that's not a good question. Well, we did that today. One of the books that he was reading today was more of a behavioral book where he talks about this little boy who loves to roar. And he's like, I love to roar. And the book was in essence just telling him that this boy picks up the most inappropriate time to do something, to say something, to interrupt. And the mom was trying to give him a strategy of being able to kind of hold off and wait. And what she said was, the word was KISS, which was keep it simple, sweetie.
Which is totally different definition I'm used to.
Keep it silent, sweetie. I think that's what. And that was I was like, why would they use that acronym? But when I realized,
it's similar to the other acronym. Yeah. But that one's not kid.
He's not kid appropriate. So that was why I was like, why would she have used that? But then, now that he's learning to spell and read, I kept on saying KISS, not using the word kiss. I wasn't saying that. Yeah. So finally, towards the end of the book, we were reading they have the KISS in bold letters, and so he started sounding it out. It was like, kiss, and I was like, is that what it says? And I was like, yes, that's what it says. And so having to explain, that it was a different kind of kiss, but it was an acronym. I think, but for me, I knew I understood the mother's heart in the book, what she was trying to say. And what she was trying to say was for the little boy to kind of like, what do we always, be situationally aware, read the room, like we'll say. You see somebody in a conversation, don't just go, mommy, And I know that something you've pointed out to me, that whenever we're talking or I'm talking to somebody and he comes, mommy, I tend to stop what I'm doing and listen to him. And that enables that,
yes.
And so.
You've gotten better, though.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to work on it. Just because, I guess since he was a little, you always respond to their needs, but not realizing that by responding when he interrupts, you're reinforcing the behavior of interrupting, your conversation. So, that was a kind of like a good kind of lead in to talk about, the boy has a roar, meaning he has something he wants to say. So how do we teach you the appropriate time to interrupt? And then you and I, when we're in the car, we're talking, and he says he has something to say, and we say, hold on, buddy. And then we have to remember to pause in the conversation to ask him, because his biggest gripe is, I'm going to forget it, And so we try to make sure we have a pause real quick so he can tell us what he wants to say. Yeah. And sometimes it's something off topic. Like today, what did he say today? About, I wish there was no gravity. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
But it was an interesting statement. And I said, if there was no gravity, what does it? We won't be able to walk.
I'm surprised he didn't say, well, we could just fly, but...
No, he didn't say that. But he came back to me and said, why won't we be able to walk? And I was like, okay, this is now a different topic about gravity. But like I always say, go ask Daddy the science questions. I didn't do that today, though. So what else about homeschooling? How has it been for you as a dad? Working from home. Thank you for playing the catch game with him while he was, sounding our words and caught a ball and sounding our words. I think that was a engaging way to get him moving. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Well, we're a team, right?
Yeah, we are. But, it does feel kind of like it's a little frustrating to interrupt you. But I thank you for the grace that you gave me that I could interrupt you, that I feel like I can interrupt you, say, hey, I need your help with this.
It's not really an interruption when it's planned.
Yeah.
You told me yesterday you were going to need me to do stuff. So it's not like I didn't know it was coming. So it was planned. And even when we started this homeschooling thing and talked about it, we said that we were both going to be involved with it.
Yeah.
And you just, you've taken the lead and have structured everything and gotten all the stuff. But, I already knew there was going to be a lot of stuff I need to take on too.
That's true.
So it's not like a...
I think that's the one thing. I think so many times when most of the moms and dads, but I've mostly interacted with moms that I have talked to, that I've homeschooled, they're doing it solo. Like, that is at work, that's doing something else. And so I feel like with us being able to kind of partner up in it takes some of the pressure. Because there are days that I just don't... You're like my substitute teacher.
Well, the other thing to note is that with homeschooling, there's no set times specific.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we have a schedule that we keep with him, but everything becomes a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
So while he has a set schedule when it comes to like his
Like
school
this
day,
disciplined school where
the
they
disciplined
work.
school
Yeah.
day, where everything can become a learning opportunity. So it doesn't matter. Like I can come in later in the day when he's finished his official schoolwork and go over stuff with him. One of the pluses with him is he happens to be a very curious kid. So
He's very curious.
I could just say, "Hey, do you want to learn about volcanoes today?" And he'll jump and and so I sat with him for 10, 15 minutes, and we talked about the Earth's crust and the mantle and the core of the Earth and the magnetic fields. And
So that was why
that was just an impromptu thing that I mean, it wasn't impromptu because he'd been asking me how lava works for days. So
that explains why you took my ice pack and filled it with water in the sink.
I mean,
he wanted to see how a volcano explodes.
It doesn't. It shows his imagination, but it doesn't. I'm still trying to connect the dots on why he did that, because he already knows how that worked because I showed him and we talked about it, and like I get where he was going with it, I do, but at the same time, it's
a 5-year-old brain.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because I asked him, I said, so what made you think about that? I said, well, I went to the bathroom. And I said, and then he said, and I was washing my hand. And I was like, and then I said, and then you saw the ice pack draining there. And you decided to fill it with water. And when I busted him, he threw it in the sink and ran behind the door real quick. So he knew it was busted.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was going through your head? And he's like, I don't like getting in trouble. I was like,
then don't do it.
Then slow and think. He doesn't have that, what do they call it? That, I don't know if it's not a reflex. What's the word? Where it's 5, I guess. He's 5. You can't blame him that he stops enough to think about his actions,
Sometimes he does. He's getting there. The problem that you have on the discipline side of the homeschooling is just discipline period with him, is that he knows he's not supposed to do something.
But his curiosity wins out every time.
Most of the time, it's getting better. Where he knows he's not supposed to do something, but sometimes I asked him after he did that, why did you touch something, and that you without asking? Why did you see something that wasn't yours, sitting there
and decide to touch
with a very specific? I was draining it out.
Yeah, it's dry it
so
out.
So you basically just completely, took away everything I was doing with it.
Because it got really wet.
It's not dry now, and so you just could have asked.
And what did he say?
He just looked at me. He didn't really give me an answer. But it was answer. But when he does that, it's answer enough. Like,
yeah.
I know he's thinking like, yeah, you're right. Like he had it to look like I know I should have, but
his curiosity got the better of him.
Yeah, and that'll hopefully get better with age, but yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the things that I've gotten away from him, he's really, at 5, has taught me to live life in a curious way. Because sometimes as adults, you just get used to the monotony of just doing things and going through the motion. He has caused me to kind of learn the part about, why are you laugh smiling? The part about life that is about staying curious. And I think that's what God wants for us, though, isn't it? Like, he wants that curious part for us to stay that way. Yeah. And
that's why I was chuckling.
in the moment.
It reminded me of when we went to the cave, and you were just taking pictures at everything, and I had to tell you to
oh yeah,
put
in
the camera
Virginia,
down and just enjoy it, and you actually enjoyed it way more after you put the camera down.
I really did. But we'd still have the pictures to remind us of that.
Yeah, I mean the pictures were nice, but you were, you had the camera up from the moment we got there
down to the cabin,
about a quarter of the way through until I told you to put it down.
That is true.
And
that's
be in the moment.
That's where you balance me out, though. And again, I think there are moments that I see myself blatantly in him.
Yes.
And then there are moments that I totally see you in him, and I'm like, that is your dad all the way. And I think that's the beauty, though, about kids, when they can reflect you.
Yeah.
Some of it isn't even, because even people that, that adopt kids, some of those times the kids can take on personas of the parent that, they're raising them. So some things are genetic, and some things I think are product of the household that you live in. So, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What else?
No, I think we covered pretty much
I think
it, right?
we did. It was a pretty good topic, babe.
Yes.
Thank you for choosing this one. Did I get to choose the next one? No, just kidding. Do I? All right. Do we stop?
Well, how do you want to end it?
Well, we're open to questions. Like, people ask questions, and like how we,
We should have people. If people want to ask us questions about homeschooling or in general.
Yeah.
Put in the comments. We'll check it out.
We'll check it out.
And then
do our best
you
to
actually just
answer
gave me
it.
an idea for another episode. But
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, so that's coming. So that's coming soon.
Well, yeah. I was thinking you mentioned stuff about him taking on our attributes, which made me think of generational sin.
So that's a good one.
So we can
talk about that.
We'll have that on an episode, and if you're interested in seeing that, then put it in the comments.
Yeah, that would be good. I think that's going to be a good one.
We definitely have quite a bit to say about that one.
We do. Well, thank you for joining us. We just hope that you can grow with us in this journey of conversations in marriages and being able to kind of like talk things out, have the difficult conversations, have the easy conversations, and just the in-betweens that come in, being in a relationship with somebody that is different from you, but hopefully you are growing towards that oneness.
Yes.
I love you, babe.
Love you more.
I love you the most, sister.
I said it first.
I know.